we're going to talk about open-ended questions. I don't know where I left my notes. Open-ended, open and closed-ended questions. What is a closed-ended question?
Yes or no answer.
Okay, yes or no answer.
This specific answer.
Right, specific answer.
Let's move off for discussion.
Sure doesn't. Well, some point, yeah. Right? This is not going to be your go-to question. And this yes or no or closed questions can happen a lot when you're pressed for time. Any questions? No. Anybody else have an experience related to that? No. Like there's different ways to cause engagement. And they're also super important. Closed questions are also super important. When we do introductions, who are you? Where are you from? How many years have you done this? Right? That's not a long discussion. We're not saying, how did this process go for you? How did NCSS come to be so successful? How is it that you have so many people at the table, right? We just want to know who you are, what your role is, and how long have you been doing this? Closed questions, super important. It's the beginning, where did I put my community thing? It's the beginning of building community. Who's in the room? Right? Do you want to break now, or do you want to get through this next activity? Right? These are the kind of questions that you bounce to the group that are important, but like someone over here said, they do not generate conversation. Open. Questions. Tell me about open-ended questions.
Reflect more, think more.
Someone said something.
Get people to think more, reflect more.
How's thinking and reflection? What else do we do?
You can't answer with a yes or no.
Yeah, answer it. So what happens?
It facilitates expression, expansion, and discussion.
Facilitates expansion. I loved when you were talking. Your arms were moving. Expansion, expression, right? It's an invitation. It's an opening.
And usually starts with a who, what, when, where,
Right.
how, rather than you or are you.
Again, it gives you a little, these who, what, where, when, depending on how they use them, it could be a bridge from closed-ended questions, like where do you work? It's a little deeper than a yes or no. But like we talked about with Doubting Thomas, tell me about a time when that worked. When? Tell me what else do you think could happen to make that successful? Instead of saying, do you have any questions? Tell me the questions that you have. What does this bring up for you? What other thoughts do you have about this? It's an invitation for some deeper conversation. Right? Any other qualities that you want to say about open-ended questions?
It engages people more, lets them know that you want to hear their knowledge, their experience, their information.
And it's huge validation, right? If I'm phrasing my questions so that I want to hear from you, I am automatically saying, without saying it, I want to hear from you. I value what you have to say. I want to hear about your experience. You've done this before. I'd love it if you would share that story. You know, it's a validation. It's also a welcoming, right? And these all help. We're building community all the time. The more you greet a person, the more you invite them into conversation, the more you invite them to have some critical thinking, the more you invite them into a deeper dive. Not only are they going to learn more, but they're going to feel like they're part of the group. They're going to start taking risks. They're going to be vulnerable because they know that we all want to hear this. Toss out some open-ended questions. What comes to mind?
Was there anything in that content that resonated with you?
Anything that resonated with you?
Has anyone had a
No.
similar experience?
Wait a second. No, there wasn't. Okay, tell me what resonated with you.
Has anyone had a similar experience, or can they share a similar experience?
No. So how can we rephrase that? I want to hear about your similar
Tell me
experiences.
about your similar.
Right? Being a little bit of a jerk for fun's sake. Who wants to take a risk now? Shut two people down.
How were you impacted by that?
How are you impacted by that? Great. What else?
Tell me about your experience in this situation.
Tell me about your experiences.
What are your thoughts?
What are your thoughts? More thoughts on this. What was shocking to you? What's surprising there? What else?
In what ways can you relate to this?
What ways can you relate to this? That's great. These are all great questions. Anybody over here have a?
Describe the situation, tell me more about what you felt.
Tell me how you felt about that. How about the NCSS crew? Do you have any ideas? Yup. That's one of my strategies. Best way to feel like you're part of the group is to make people feel on the spot. So, anyway, I think we get the point. What we're going to do small group activities. So right at your table, we don't have to move. You can see on your table, on one of these larger stickies, you have a session number. This is the session that your group is going to focus on in your manual. This is an RPC Plus session. So what I want you to do, before anybody moves, I'm giving you this instruction. What I want you to do is open to the session. See what session it is. We talked about a bunch of the sessions yesterday. We're only doing the sessions that you talked about yesterday. And on this piece of paper, someone scribe what would be some open-ended questions that you could come up with that would engage people to talk about this topic. So flip through, look at the different parts of the session, and then come up with some questions. Then we'll need a recorder, and we'll do a group recording. Yes.
So what are some of the
All right. Pass it off to you guys.
Tell us about what conditions that took care of.
Yeah, this is self-care. And this one has a lot of sorry,
Or you describe something that you tried, or maybe ask how is it different, or what you like about it.
how do you maintain a balance between work?
Keep in mind the characters in the room.
How do you maintain a balance between work and home?
One thing I forgot to say, I wrote on my board, my paper, but I forgot to say, also keep in mind characters in the room and what questions, open-ended questions you might write up for them. You don't have to come up with one for everyone, but like if you have a Sally question, what do you know about Excuse me, one thing I forgot to say, keep in mind characters in the room.
I already tried mine.
So if you can think of a question, you don't have to think of one for everyone, but if something comes up where you're like, oh, this would help with that person, do that as well. Keep in mind the characters in the room. You also have open-ended questions that relate to the know-it-all or personal ability. What kind of question, you don't have to come up with one for everybody.
So if you have to know it all, they'll get people started, because they've tried everything, they've tried everything. They're self-actualized, they're good. Highest level of Maslow. I like that.
I mean, they go. When I say that they like feeling it, but they don't recognize it as. Do you know what I'm saying?
So when you say that,
Yes, I don't think they would have the terminology.
Right, they can recognize it.
And my guess is that in some cases, that there would be a guilt that would go along with that. Because we're talking about some now we can go.
How might you help a child feel like they say something, there's no, like, having that same experience.
Yeah, but I mean, I would just
Help them. Like, it's like if they have somebody that plays around with them, they say, how might you help who you are?
When you ask a question,
How you would help when you, maybe?
Versus, oh, if everybody responds, or whoever, and that's where you have to kind of keep an eye on how it is, see who's responding to the question. If the chat is happy, or no one else, you're the only one who's able to
Yeah.
some of the open-ended questions in anything, baseline knowledge, go back to or focus on.
I have a friend that knows that. So
example of how you can develop attachment with this child.
When I say compassion for
Do you have something like that? Oh, yes. What does it say? I'll rephrase. Where's an example of how you form attachment with a child?
I have, what are some reasons for you?
Okay, I thought we went ahead.
Then I have, what is your child development? What is, what have you what are the reasons why you think it's important to have self-care?
Big question to ask them, what is learning about it? They don't necessarily know yet.
I was gonna say, like,
Right, but they're just learning. So they might just say no, I don't want to.
Maybe how do you phrase it? Or something like, we have a further conversation that if you're not taking care of
Nothing.
And I explain that to really have to take care of yourself. Because if you're
We'll help each other.
And like the big, like the big picture overall, it's really self-care to know. I mean, I'm currently massaging, that's great, but that. You're making me angry here, come on.
something like, like, what are some things you can do that are big, like take care of yourself? And what are some really quick little things that you can do in the moment? To kind of frame it.
So kind of like,
How successful were you? So phrase it in positive,
Just to reverse.
Okay, let's come back.
that they worked.
I hear some great discussions. You might not have gotten through your whole session or the whole week. That's fine. This was the goal here was just to get you thinking about open-ended questions. So we're going to do a report out now, and we're going to have fun with this. Like, I'm going to say no. You guys, like, if it sounds like a closed-ended question to you, blurt out your closed-ended answer, okay? And then we're going to help people rephrase the questions, okay? So I want to say, this is hard, it's hard to always ask open-ended questions. It's okay if you get some closed-ended questions in there. We tend to do closed-ended questions when you're pressed for time, or you feel like you got to get things going, or you feel like, God, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I kind of want to just have it finished. I want to button it up. So just button it up. Like all your questions should be you want to hear an answer. And if you feel like it's time to button it up, just say, okay, we're going to move on now. Okay? So this time, let's start in the middle, right here. Do you guys, what session did you have, or what week did you have, and what questions did you come up with?
we had session 3 on self-care.
Great.
Tell me what your definition of self-care is.
Great.
What are some things you do to take care of yourself?
Nothing.
We've got John and Thomas
Shout it out.
Right?
You want us to reply to that or just keep going?
No, yeah, so like, what, who yelled nothing? Okay.
Tell me
So
more
what
about
do you
that.
think they could do to,
Tell me why.
Tell
Can you repeat the question?
What are some things you do to take care of yourself?
Nothing. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that, right? I don't have any time, like there's a lot of different things. So you can meet the question with another open-ended question. Or wow, you responded to that super quickly. I'm wondering what that brought up for you, right? So, okay, go ahead.
Tell us how you took care of yourself this past week. How do you maintain a balance between work and home?
Great questions.
What are some of the ways, when I say compassion fatigue, what comes to mind? What are some of the ways you know you are experiencing compassion fatigue? And just identify self-care techniques in the moment and in the bigger picture.
Great.
So we were working on that last question with the phrasing.
Yeah.
And out of time.
Great. Those are really good questions. And when someone meets you with a short answer, just figure out a way to re-engage that person. Great, thanks. This table here, what session do you have and what did you come up with?
Session 2. So describe the mindfulness practice you have used or tried in the past. How did you feel doing this exercise? Is there a time that something similar occurred, such as when we were talking about the snake example? And can you share that example of a time that maybe you have seen your child have a similar experience? How could you help your child during that experience? What are some ways you promote attachment with your child? What does your child look like when they are dysregulated? What have you noticed about triggers that your child has? And what was a habit or routine that you have tried or wanted to change, and how successful was it?
Great questions. The one where you started out with a closed question, but then you sort of scaffolded onto that was a great save. I think I missed, you said session 2, but what does session 2 cover? I can guess. Trauma what?
Trauma of the brain.
Trauma of the brain.
The internal alarm system.
Great questions. Let's go to this table here. What session, title, and...
Session number 1.
Intro to Trauma 101.
Okay. Nice and loud, please.
Tell me one concern you may have about this group. What are 3 things you're hoping to get out of this group? Tell me one thing you already know about trauma. Tell us who is in your home and how long you've been a foster parent. And turn to your partner or someone next to you and write on sticky notes your reaction to the removed video or what it has brought up for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So there, the sticky note thing, would it be write on the sticky note and then share with your partner?
Yeah. We were having a group conversation and then you would put them up
Okay.
earlier and have that.
Great, thank you. So you had some good bridge questions there. Some that were like slightly closed-ended, but it was like tell me one thing or tell me 3 things. So it's an invitation, but it's also a little bit shorter. And this is also session 1. So like you're going to build on that relationship. The types of things that are discussed in session 1 are kind of inviting the questions that you put out there. So
And there's so much to get through that
Right.
you don't want those. Yeah.
right, and you're going to build on that. You're going to build on that information. So you're asking some preliminary. They're deep, but they're not really deep dives like you might get with brain and stuff. Thank you. Let's go over here.
We have session 9, which is focused on connections and healing.
Is everybody here? Can you hear down there?
I'll talk about it as I can. So here are our questions or invitations to the conversation. Tell me about your support system. Describe a ritual that your family has. Tell me about one way you connect with your child. What was that activity like for you? What does empathy mean to you? What connections do the children in your home have? What do you think the experience was like for the children in your home when they arrived? Tell me what you do for self-care.
Thank you. Good questions. This table, let's session topic do you have?
Session 8, dealing with feelings and behaviors. How did those behaviors impact the rest of the house? What are your underlying thoughts, feelings, and behaviors? And the feelings we didn't vet it out, but brought up the 5 senses, how the feeling. What do you notice as triggers? What are times when behaviors did feel personal? What are your calming techniques in the moment or later? How often do you use the thermometer, or how did you use the thermometer? What strategies work for your child when you tune into your child? How do you know your strategy is working? What do you think your child needs when they behave that way? And what do you think they're getting from acting out? How do you encourage positive behavior? And how did self-care change your mood?
Great questions, thank you. The only one that was just a little bit of a stumbler is how many times have you used the thermometer?
Yeah.
But then you scaffolded it. That there was one question I think was list that was great. That could be used. Oh, how do you know? How do you know that's working? Is a great engagement question. You know, especially for some of the negative people. Well, if you know when it's not working, how do you know when it is working? Great question, great reflective question. This group.
We have session 7, building a safe space. What made you feel safe? What is your child's definition of safety? What are the barriers to feeling safe? How is it different from when you were a child? How do you validate your child's concerns? How do you support your child who has experienced trauma? And how do you create a safe space? Please give a specific example.
Nice. Good questions. You all did a really great job with this. Really appreciate your thoughts. And so just kind of practice when you're prepping for a session. You might even, again, big fan of sticky notes. I love putting stickies and things in my binders, in my manuals to remind me to ask certain questions. So that way, it's a prompt, it's a visual reminder. If that works for you, great. If it doesn't, wondering what other questions or remaining questions you have about using open-ended questions as an engagement tool, or you feel like you got that? Sounds like you got it. So right now, we're going to have to compete with the smell of lasagna for just a couple of minutes. But what I want to go back to this, and when Amy and I, during the break, Amy and I took a look at this. Oops, one fell. And from our point of view, there were just a couple things that we haven't addressed yet. And so some I'm going to bounce to the group, and then we'll see if any of you have any questions. So, public speaking to large groups. A couple people commented about not feeling comfortable with that. So let's bounce it to the group. Tips about public speaking. First, does the person who wrote that want to talk a little bit about that? Since you don't like talking in front of groups, can I invite you to talk in front of groups? Sally, I know you're out there. And if not, that's fine. But what tips do you have for someone who feels a little uncomfortable about speaking in public?
I would say if you can, maybe acknowledging and self-disclosing that at the beginning and saying that other people might feel the same way. And that,
Excellent.
it might be, you might have to work through some stuff, but, they can help you and have it be part of the group process and building it before.
Excellent, excellent. Go ahead.
Sometimes teaming up with somebody who's a more experienced, like facilitator, with somebody who's less experienced allows the more experienced one to kind of take the lead. And so then the one that's kind of a little bit more information around that, can kind of slowly get comfortable with adding in there, because I know that happened. There was a person who told the lady I co-facilitated with was like, I can't speak, and so I said, well, I'm used to doing this a little bit, so for a little while I can take the lead, and pretty soon she was just off and running when she finally kind of got comfortable with it.
Right, and those are good points, you know, use your instructor. The other thing too is like we all go to lots of trainings, we go to lots of workshops. Think about what works for you in a class. Think about what is engaging for you and try to emulate that person, emulate some of the tips and skills that that person has. You know, this saying fake it till you make it, there is some truth in that. The more you do it, the more comfortable. But like if you're a reserved person and you're teaching for the first time and it's new curriculum, it's going to be a challenge. And so be kind to yourself. Acknowledge, I can't say, like earlier when we said I don't have the answers or I don't know what I'm doing, acknowledge that that's exactly how you should be feeling. It's rare, the person who comes into a training saying, I've got this and I'm so ready, and like, you can be excited and nervous. You can be prepared and feel a little not self-confident. You know, this morning on the way down, Amy and I were talking in the van, and I was like, oh, I feel really great about this. But once I got here, I was like, ooh, I feel kind of funny teaching in front of Amy, who I really admire as a facilitator and an instructor. And I was like, oh, now I feel kind of funny that you're going to be in the room. But it's okay. Amy and I have worked together for a long time. So a lot of this also is about relationship. And we've talked about this. You're building relationships in community. The more you get to know the people in your classes, the more you get to know how to work with your facilitator, the more you understand and are familiar with the curriculum, it'll get a little easier. You may never be a person who's like, public speaking, that's me. You may never be that person, but you might also get more comfortable. And again, when we talk about parallel process, not all parents are going to be comfortable having the conversations that we're asking them to have. And we're asking people to take the risk. Let's hear some more tips.
Rehearse.
Rehearse. Yeah.
I know that some resources, additional outside of here time resources can be for introverted leadership.
Oh, yeah.
That there's people who know the information, want to get it out, but like you said, your experience, you get the butterflies,
Yeah.
something, and so there's in that introverted leadership